Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're going to do a quick midweek update from what we've seen this week in cannabis. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on the video as it really helps out my channel, and I do appreciate it. And then, of course, if you think this is going to be a big industry and you want to learn how to take advantage, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any future videos. But if you have not caught up or you don't know where to start, I would recommend going back and watching Reality Check, Cannabis in 2020, the series I made, but start with episode 3 and 4. Those talk about the US MSOs and the Canadian LPs, and then you can watch episodes of This Week in Cannabis to get caught up. But if you were watching mainstream news, you probably did not know, but there were a lot of awesome developments in cannabis this week. And because Monday was a holiday in Canada, I believe it was in the US as well, this was great to see progress actually being made on one of the days off. So Cory Booker was announced, he touts cannabis reform. So he mentions that after being named chair of key Senate subcommittee. So this is sort of the news that we were really hoping for. Someone in power that wants this change to happen actually being in charge of drug policy issues. So a leading voice for cannabis legislation in the Senate has been appointed to lead a key subcommittee with jurisdiction over drug policies. He immediately signaled that cannabis reform would be part of his agenda. This is awesome. Thank you, Cory Booker. You're an OG. He will chair the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Criminal Justice and Counterterrorism. A press release on the appointment prominently touts 2 cannabis bills the senator has sponsored. So I'm not sure if these are what they've put together or these are older bills, but it seems like Booker has been behind the Marijuana Justice Act to federally deschedule cannabis and promote social justice. So this is a positive. We want to deschedule cannabis, take it out so you can treat it like alcohol or tobacco. And then the CARES Act, I'm not as familiar with this one, but again, if it's one that he sponsored in the past, would protect state medical marijuana programs. So it allows states to do their own thing. Obviously, the States Act is a bit more of a development from that, but main thing, Booker, who along with many of these politicians we keep repeating because these are the ones that are actually going to make this happen, or that have said that they want to do it. They've put the intent out there. They are moving towards legalization legislation this session, said that the nation's broken criminal justice system is a stain on the soul of the country. Yeah, regardless, this is awesome because it just means that they're confirming that they're going to try and do it this session, and we actually now have someone in power who's in charge of criminal justice and drug policy. So that's awesome. And during the same day, when, the day was off and we were waiting for the markets to open, lawmakers and advocates urged Biden to grant cannabis clemency and presidency day push. 2 lawmakers and a coalition of cannabis advocates on Monday called on Joe Biden to grant mass clemency to people with federal cannabis convictions. And it was saying that it's inspired by actions taken by President Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter in the 70s to categorically forgive Americans who avoided the draft in the Vietnam War. But I think the good thing to point out is just that the Dems, below the president are a team, and we have just more and more people coming out and speaking about this. Earl Blumenauer, Barbara Lee, we see Earl Perlmutter there's a lot of politicians that are getting behind this, and that's obviously what we want to see. Positive sentiment changing, right? And that's just what these articles are meant to establish. Now, cannabis industry sees record job gains in 2020 despite pandemic. New report shows this is fantastic. The cannabis industry added more than 77,000 jobs over the past year, a 32% increase that makes the sector the fastest in job creation compared to any other American industry, according to a new report. So if you're not going to just legalize this to let this accelerate and allow America to get back on top, it's America, you're just missing out. Like, you're not seeing what's right in front of you. So fact is, since 2017, it's grown 27.5% every single year. And now there's over 321 legal cannabis jobs in America. Yet, these cannabis companies cannot open bank accounts because cannabis is still federally legal. So again, this is what we're waiting on the Safe Banking Act to pass, which will allow any of these employees to, open bank accounts without fear of prosecution or to get out loans because they're employed by cannabis. It's just crazy, but again, this is evidence that's out there that changes the way people view about legalizing, because ultimately, we know this, but legalizing and regulating cannabis is an economic plus. Yes. Now, this is just to reiterate an article mentioned last week, but with lobbying clout, Big Pot is here, and this is just more confidence that big alcohol and tobacco have garnered a formidable reputation in lobbying arenas over the years. Yes, we know that, but we also know that cannabis is healthy for us. We don't know how healthy. We still have to discover that, but it's worth pointing out that lobbying gets stuff done, and it appears desperate players from the cannabis industry banded together last week in the new organization called the U.S. Cannabis Council to push their interests in Washington, D.C. and state capitals, because again, that's just how this culture works. So you got to play their game and beat them at their game. But there's plenty of room to grow, as last year just $4 million was spent on cannabis lobbying, and this is measly compared to the $27 million spent by tobacco and $30 million by beer. And again, that's only $27-30 million when we're talking about trillion-dollar companies on the TSX. So this is massive because, now that these companies can put their money where their mouth is, progress is being made. Now we're going to roll through these quickly, but New York governor to send amended cannabis legislation plan to lawmakers amid criticism. So yeah, despite the fact Cuomo just keeps stalling and they're going back and forth, he's sending it back to the lawmakers. So hopefully we can see some progress. That's a good thing. Hopefully, the sooner the back and forth can end, the sooner there will be some progress. Now, Virginia announced that after grandstanding, fear-mongering, race biasing is over. The House Cannabis Legislation Bill amended to look like Senate version passes the Senate with the exact vote we already knew it would pass by. So Virginia has pretty much legalized cannabis. That's awesome. Now, although they don't have a program or they don't have a system to get sales out yet, they've done the hard part. Now they have to build that. But that's awesome. That's what we want to see. New Mexico adult use cannabis bill advanced by the State House panel. This is great. It's a social equity and micro-business focused adult scale cannabis legalization bill while tabling a more industry-oriented measure. Now, again, this is just, it advanced the House, so it has to go through the Senate, but that's awesome. Now, Colorado, they're the first state to do this, so they're way ahead of all the other states. And I want to point this out, how much of a luxury that is for them. So Colorado awarded their first adult use cannabis delivery license. So just see this as a precedent for other states to adopt this eventually, because if you can't leave the house and the US is loving and wallowing in this, isolate yourself. I mean, at some point we do have to be humans and get social again, because that's what really allows us to thrive. But seeing this being allowed in Colorado as a precedent, we'll likely see it more acceptable in other states. And just to point out, Colorado has sold about $10 billion worth of cannabis since 2014. So, folks, when we look at Illinois' numbers, when we look at Arizona just opening, all of these states are going to be, even within 5 years, they're going to have sold $10 billion worth. So you want to be invested in companies in where the growth is actually coming in the near future, where you're going to get the best results. And 20-year-old Kansas lawmaker files drug decriminalization bill. So this is a great start, although decriminalization really does just help the black market thrive. And that's why I believe legalization is just a much better approach. Obviously, it's easier said than done. There's a lot more work to it, but this is huge. Aaron Coleman, in a red state, Kansas, who defeated a 7-term incumbent in the Democratic Party last year, filed the legislation, believing that drug use is a mental health problem, not a criminal one, and it shouldn't be treated criminally. Of course, this is awesome. We need more people in power like this that can actually make positive decisions and allow progress. So next interesting thing is that Mexico has not passed their full-scale recreational or adult use legalization yet, but Mexico's medical cannabis program offers firms a chance to enter their new adult use industry. So as they are planning and beginning to set regulatory structure for medical cannabis in the country, making it possible for companies to start applying for research licenses and bring products to the market, this is basically saying, hey, countries where you have federally legalized, like Canada, you can start looking for opportunity in Mexico. That's pretty much what this is. It's an invitation. Now, nothing is set in stone yet, but this is just the advantage that, yes, Canadian LPs do have this advantage to get into international markets before the U.S. companies. However, it's just so important to understand that the population in the U.S. will have a much bigger impact than the ability to get future business out of these companies that are still, or out of these countries, that are still putting their structures together. It's not that it's not coming, it's just going to take time. So this is great news, but you're not going to make money investing in a company that, gets into Mexico's cannabis infrastructure or medical cannabis infrastructure because they don't have anything yet. So great news, but still just need them to legalize in the first place. And just wanted to add this, Michigan court approves medical cannabis during probation. Yes, because why not? Another state has ruled in favor of allowing people on probation to access their medication so that they can relieve suffering. It seems obvious, but I want to point that out because that's great. Now, in other news in Canada, consolidation is beginning, and Hexo Corp to acquire Cannabis Global. These are two companies I don't pay attention to because, again, we've seen that you only need 3 to 5 companies to supply the entire Canadian market, and the other ones obviously wanted to capitalize on the opportunity to start a business and become entrepreneurs or make money, but now they're just kind of dumpster fire companies combining to become bigger dumpster fire companies to last a bit longer. So anyways, not to get into the details here, just to point out that, as mentioned, because there's so many companies in Canada, they're going to start consolidating. So we see Hexo acquiring Cannabis, and Cannabis shareholders will receive 0.01772 of a Hexo common share. Seems atrocious. So Yeah, not ideal. And again, that's just why I'm emphasizing to move towards the MSOs for the next 2 years, because without a doubt, if you're in one of the better Canadian LPs, you're good for the future. But the growth in the next little while will be in the US. Mark my words. Now, SEC filing reveals huge investor in Green Thumb Industries. Who was it that invested $100 million in Green Thumb? Turns out the SEC filing today disclosed it may be Palestra Capital Management based in New York City. A firm disclosed a 9.2 million share stake amounting to 5.3 of GTI. So keep this in mind, though. Private investment firms are taking on the risk to get into these industries, despite the fact that they could still be prosecuted by the federal government, because Green Thumb Industries is still technically working within a legal industry. So that's something to point out, and that's why these big banks, JP Morgan, Charles Schwab, or any of these big ones, they can't get into these companies yet because they can't work with companies and illegal businesses, but these private investment firms actually can. So it's just going to show that, people with money that know what's up, that they want to get their money in. And that's showing a lot of confidence, at least for these U.S. multi-state operators going forward. Now, Cresco, they closed their acquisition of Verdant Creations. So they get 4 dispensaries, which reaches their maximum retail licenses in Ohio. And sorry, I want to point out that Cresco Labs already has 10 licenses maxed out in Illinois. So they've maxed out their presence there. And now they're maxing out their presence in another state, Ohio, that has medical and is hopefully soon going to legalize for adult use. So I like Cresco's approach because, yes, they're getting into states where they have a medical advantage and where the adult use market should be opening up soon. Again, they have that 1 dispensary in Arizona, and now they've got a bigger foothold in Ohio, and I love that. Now, this is a recent piece of information I found, BDSA top brands for Q4 2020. So this would be from October, November, December, and these are the numbers we're going to see released in March when these companies release their numbers. But look at how dominant Cresco appears to be at the top. Now, I do apologize. I found this yesterday. I did not have the time to go through and try to sort which brands are which. But what you can try to do is use headset.io or try to Google which company is behind these brands, and you can connect the dots that way. But this just makes me very bullish on Cresco in March for what their potential earnings might be, just especially when this is Q4 2020 retail sales by brand, by state. So I'll try to do more research into this and identify who this really benefits going forward, but I just found this, thought it was worth sharing. Great to see Cresco at the top. Grassroots Cannabis, I know that is Curaleaf, but I mean Curaleaf also has a bunch of other brands like Select Oil, so this is also Curaleaf. Just a lot of dots to be connected through here, but feel free to do that if you'd like, and I will try to at least have some more perspective for this on the video on Sunday coming out. Now, there's just a lot of stuff being put together from cannabis investors on Twitter in the MSO gang trying to warn people that, like, hey, the opportunity is in the US in the next few years. And I completely agree, because I thought the opportunity was in Canada in 2018, and I couldn't have been more wrong, holding on to bags for years. And now that, Aphria has at least become number one, I'm able to offload some of that weight I was holding on to and redistribute it into these better opportune companies. Now, what reasons? Well, the president is blue, the House is blue, the Senate is blue. The Senate leader Schumer is putting together a cannabis bill. American cannabis companies are not yet listed on the big boards. The Safe Banking Act is on its way. Wall Street is restricted from buying because the Safe Banking Act is still on its way. It hasn't passed yet. Retail restricted from buying on most platforms. Media is misleading investors. If you're watching the mainstream, you're not knowing about this, which is just so sad. So, but also, if you're coming here, congratulations. That's why you're awesome. States rushing to legalize for jobs and taxes. We're seeing that right now. Record smashing quarters with ER dates. Main MSOs are cashed up. Wall Street trying to keep MSO valuations low. And that's what makes this a generational opportunity. And just to compare the top 4 MSOs to top 5 MLP or top 5 Canadian LPs, the Canadian LPs are worth more combined, yet their revenue is 1/3. Their negative EBITDA compared to positive EBITDA, 200% more than 300%. Yeah, so the MSOs are up by 300% more than LPs in profitability wise, and then cash flow from operations more than $1 billion in debt, mainly from Canopy and Aurora, unfortunately, and cash flow from operations positive $70 million. So it's night and day. I understand a lot of investors are going to think, no, but like long term, these Canadian LPs are going to do well. And hey, I agree. 1 or 2 or 3 of them are going to dominate and become massive. But a lot of these smaller ones are not, because they're not going to be able to compete long term. And that's just the facts, and that's where we sit today. So I did want to bring this up, though, because, hey, Aphria is still a great company, but you just have to research the company and try to develop an understanding as to why you're invested in it. Not what the price is or what people are saying, just why you're invested. So I would encourage you to read through this. Just if you own shares in Aphria, or you're wondering if you should or why you should keep holding, Aphria still looks very attractive. And there is of course, the premium to play between Aphria and Tilray when that conversion happens. Now, I just want to point this out, though, because Aphria is, again, I think it's the only Canadian company really worth getting into for the long term. But again, at this price right now, I think it's expensive. But the good news is Ontario increasing rates of cannabis retail store authorizations to 30 a week. So on December 8th, Ontario announced that they would be doing, not 30 a week, but they would be doing 80 stores a month. So that would be 20 a week. Now they're going to 30 a week, which will be 120 stores a month. So without a doubt, Canada is going to see growth. And so other Canadian LPs will, but you're going to benefit the most by investing in the companies with the most market share in Canada. And that has proven to be Aphria, Redecan, VFF, or Canopy if you're willing to go that far down the line. But this is just awesome because it seems like they've issued 489 already. 430 stores are authorized compared to 4 months ago when we only had 200. So that's what's going to account for more growth. Now, I just got to remind you all, tonight, Tilray, after the market closes, are going to release their earnings. And this is a big deal, obviously, because Tilray and Aphria are pretty much trading neck and neck now because of their merger. From my experience, if Tilray's earnings are positive and they at least show profitable EBITDA for Q4, then it's potential that we won't see too much of a pullback. But if the numbers are not that great, which I honestly don't think they will be because, again, Tilray by themselves are not a great company, or they haven't shown it in their numbers, we will see a pullback just like last week. Like, it'll be the same thing over and over again, or it'll be the same thing as last week over again. We see Tuesday, Wednesday go up, and then Thursday can pull right back. So that is just mainly why I kind of made that plan to get out yesterday. And just to jump into that, this was the plan that I had made on Sunday that I had told you all about, and I planned to execute on. So I had 4,400 in here, and I still had to sell some Aphria. So did I end up executing? Well, I did, and I actually am a bit happier with how it worked out. So the first thing I did was sell Aphria at $23.56, but it only filled at $24.47. So right away, I got $12,000 back in the morning, and I felt great about that because I got better bang for my buck. Okay, and so if you look back, I had $4,000 in cash. And yes, the other thing is I did not get the chance to buy more Cresco, and I did not get the chance to buy more Vireo, which was essentially my plan. But I'm waiting because I think we have time. If there's a pullback from Tilray's weak earnings, we might see MSOs get dragged back too, and that's the buy opportunity I'm waiting on to try and get Cresco shares at 19 and to try and get Vireo shares at 3.95. If it doesn't happen, that's okay, and I will adjust and I'll buy at different prices. But so just to point out, the first thing I did yesterday was to sell Aphria, and then the next thing I did at one point, like midday, Aphria was going crazy, and it got up to 27. I was just like, I can just unload more and have more cash. So what this allowed me was to actually get up to 16,800 in cash now, and the 4,000 in cash that I had before I even sold those, which was sitting here, I noticed a dip in Harvest, and I thought, you know what? Harvest is a fantastic company, and I actually do want more of Harvest. So although this wasn't originally in the plan, using what I knew, I was able to adjust, midday and make that happen. And so I did manage to accumulate. Now I have 2,500 Harvest shares at $4.23, and the price did bounce back. I got in at $4.86, and it bounced right back up. I almost timed the dip. Not to say that you can actually do that. I didn't try to do it. I just saw, this is an opportunity for me to buy. But so that's where I sit now. I got more of Harvest, and now I have $16,805 in cash to just wait for Cresco and Vireo and buy when I feel is the right time to do it over the next few weeks. And that is just the power of taking profits when you're up and not getting delusional thinking it can keep going because, hey, it happens to the best of us. It happened to me. That's how I learned. And that's why I think it's valuable to share this information with all of you. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not a trader. I'm a long-term investor. But at a point in time, you have to start moving your chips around when you successfully, achieve your goal in this one company. Although it can keep climbing and you want to hold shares so that it does, you can take that cash out and put it into other opportunities. And there will always be opportunities. But just to point out, once I buy Cresco and Vireo, I'm done buying for 2021. I'm set. And all I'm going to be doing then is paying attention for prices to hit certain points, and then I can sell some shares, get more cash, and regroup and start to research what am I going to invest in 2022. And that's really my long-term approach. Just to remind you all that trading does increase the risk. There are different ways to do it, but I hope this transparency again helps because you want to have a plan at least. You can always change that plan. You can adjust, but without the plan, you're destined to make mistakes and it's tempting to mess things up. So I leave you folks with this page to just round off. Why can't I zoom this in? Okay, maybe it's just because I look at it on my other monitor usually. But this is just as good as it gets, the difference between MSOs and Canadian LPs. When you look at the value of Canopy, $25 million market cap, and they've only brought in 610 revenue. EBITDA wise, they're negative 274 million in profit. They've lost 350 million in cash flow and a net income of negative 3.6 billion. And this is mainly because they've wasted a lot of the money Constellation Brands gave them, and why Canopy is banking on that U.S. legalization to go through with their deals on Acreage and TerraSend. But so just to point out, go through the revenue numbers. We've got so many MSOs that are healthily for them above 500 million in revenue run rate this year already. They're all positive, profitable EBITDA. Cash flow either good or lacking or on the way there, or they either have net income that's good or lacking, being decreased or on the way there as well. So, and then this was honestly, when I saw Harvest looking through this on Sunday and Monday, I was like, wow, Harvest is sitting at 1.6 billion right now. They're going to bring in 247 million next year. Positive EBITDA, positive cash flow, not profitable, but look at these low revenue or enterprise value to sales multiples that they're trading at, 5x, 4x. The lower the enterprise value, the more potential upside. And when companies that commonly trade at a 20x enterprise value to sales valuation, that's like tech. That's a lot of these high growth industries where there's a lot of future growth accounted in. And that's where, again, folks, I want to point out that we see that there's future growth already in Canopy, Tilray, Aphria, Kronos, a lot of these companies. But look how little future growth is accounting for in these US MSOs. And that's why these MSOs have a greater margin of safety, meaning they've got less room to fall from where they are now and more upside, especially as the MSOs release their earnings in March. As the Safe Banking Act eventually gets passed in hopefully 60 to 90 days, and then legalization passes too. So we're just waiting for all of this. But if this doesn't paint the clear picture as much as possible, the time now is to consider MSOs, make a plan, and place your bets for the year. And hopefully you can reap the same rewards that I happen to be able to do with the Aphria. And then you can get better as an investor over time, learn from any mistakes or learn from experience, and then replicate that and find more winners over time. So anyways, I hope you found this valuable, folks. That's where we sit today. I wanted to get this out early before the market opens. So just, if you're up on Aphria today and the price just, again, keeps climbing like yesterday, and you're not sure why you're invested, considering shaving a bit of shares, because the Tilray earnings tonight could have a massive impact. But again, I don't know. I could be wrong. The Tilray earnings could be great, and then it could keep climbing. I have no idea. But one thing I've learned is that it does feel fantastic to lock in those profits when you're up, because when you're up, it's a lot easier to just think it's going to keep going than it is to actually lock in profits, take that cash, and, sort of regroup. So just want to point that out, but I hope you found this valuable, everyone. I want to be as transparent as possible and deliver you as much value. So please leave a like if you enjoyed this, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis. Have a great day, everybody.